Really quick announcement. We're starting a Dynasty Fantasy Football League, a viewer league. If you want to join, tweet at us at third and 20 underscore on Twitter, or leave a comment if you're watching the video on YouTube. Like and subscribe as well. Thanks, guys.
Third down and 20.
What is going on? Welcome back. Third and 20 podcast, episode 59. My name is Frank Entwistle. We got the main man, Mr. Steed himself. Steed, how you doing, man?
Doing good, dude. A little night edition episode here.
Yeah, and 'twas today that Aaron Rodgers finally returned from whatever he was doing. He was in Hawaii one week, and then the next week I see him, he's throwing footballs to people at boat parties.
Yeah, dude. When we decided to talk about, of course, we were going to talk about Aaron Rodgers coming back, but I just wanted to recap what a wild offseason for him. You know, first he started with the drama with the Packers, but I mean he hosted Jeopardy. He was he was in Hawaii with Shailene Woodley, his fiance, and Miles Teller. I don't know if you don't know who Miles Teller is, but he played in all of the Maze Runner and Insurgent movies. He hanging out with a weird crowd, But
He was on one, man. He was having instead of having an not a Super Bowl parade, he was having his MVP parade, just going around "What's up, guys?" Just threw for 50 tutties last year, won MVP. I'm pretty sick. Team doesn't want me, but pretty cool.
Yeah. It was pretty funny. Also, did you see his shirt he was wearing, that Kevin Malone shirt from The Office is talking about Kevin and the chili. I thought, and he's still rocking the long hair. He hasn't left Hawaii. It seems like, but I mean, good that he's back though. I'm glad he's just at least going to play.
Yeah, and with that being said, they were the last team that we didn't cover in the over-under. We left them out waiting for Rodgers to come back. The lines are now on the sports books, and that over-under is placed at 10. I should have had this pulled up. I'm pretty sure it's about the same. Maybe they were 10.5 last year, but I feel like they were right around 10. Steed, I'm going to hand it to you first because you were the Packers hater last year.
Still am.
You still are, but it's only with an extra game. 10 games really feels pretty low for this football team.
Especially a team that, has come off back-to-back NFC championship losses again. But 13 wins the past 2 years, to put it at 10, and especially knowing that Rodgers and Devontae Adams are going to be back, that's tough. I don't like them saying this is the last dance. I've seen where they both posted Jordan and Pippen, kind of thinking it. They know this is their last hoorah for the Packers. Well, see, the thing with Jordan and Pippen, they won championships. Here
he goes.
I'm just saying, you could call it the last dance, but it's not really the last dance for you. It'd be something if it was Brady and Gronk or, something like that. I would get that. Not Rodgers and Devontae. Devontae doesn't even have a rank. But for my guess for the over-under, I got to do it. I'm taking the under.
Taking the under, and no way.
The last dance, quote unquote, will not end well for the Packers. Rodgers has been in Hawaii, not caring about football. He'd rather be on Jeopardy. He is not in. He won't be in his MVP form. He's still going to be Aaron Rodgers, top quality quarterback. Yes. I'm going to ride off. They lost a couple pieces on the line. I'm pretty sure, and I'm just saying that there's going to be too much distraction going on with all this lingering on with the Rodgers deal, that I think it's going to be more of a drama fight than it is that, quote unquote, last dance.
Looking at their schedule now, I actually thought their schedule was going to be a little bit more favorable. They have to play the NFC West, it looks like, which sucks.
That's tough.
In the AFC, I think they also have the AFC West. I'm not 100% sure on that, though. I'm trying to check. No, they have the AFC North, which is also another tough one. So,
it's tough. You play two top three divisions.
Yeah, that is not fun for your schedule. So 10 wins actually doesn't look terribly out of there. The thing is with the Packers every year, and why I'm going to take the over for two reasons. One, they're just going to gobble up division wins again. They do every single season. I mean, the Bears, their defense proved really no match for the Packers in both of their matchups last year. I thought their defense did nothing but get worse from a talent perspective. Like now you're going to add, I like Jalen Johnson. I thought he should have been a first round pick. But you're going to ask him to cover Devontae Adams twice?
I mean, yeah, that's tough. Plus, the Bears, like historically, just ever since Rodgers been there, just don't play well against Packers.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think a rookie Justin Fields or Andy Dalton's going to outduel Aaron Rodgers, so you're going to need your defense to step up and make plays, which they haven't been able to do against this Packers football team. I mean, you get the Lions twice.
I mean, yeah,
listen, I like the way that the Lions are headed, but it's just they'd have to have a couple of big plays, probably some luck as well, to really pull off an upset against the Packers. I mean, the Vikings, I think those games would be close, but God forbid, are they playing on primetime? Let's see. Vikings, yep, there's a primetime game there. Okay, so you got one of those games on primetime, so looking good for the Packers.
Is it Monday night?
January 2nd. It is, no, I think it's Sunday night.
Oh, okay. I'm taking the Vikings. Kirk Cousins doesn't lose on Sunday night.
Yeah, it depends on which primetime game you're getting. I don't know. I'm still going to take the over. This Packers football team is too good. If you have Rodgers, you still have a solid defense. I wouldn't consider it necessarily one of the league's elite defenses, but it's not terrible. You have some pretty good players. And that offense is just going to still be on a roll. And you got a good coach. So I think that they're more likely to hit 11, 12, or 13 than they are 9 or 8.
Well, now that we know Rodgers and Devontae are going to be playing again this season, we're like when we were making predictions earlier, and I took Bucs to win NFC, you took the Rams. Now that we know the Packers are back, does that change your opinion a little bit, or like do you throw them back in the mix?
Man, I don't think so. I think part of the reason is that the NFC just wasn't as strong as it could have been and should have been. The Saints, their offense was kind of limping into the playoffs last year. That defense was phenomenal, but when you're going up against Tom Brady, and the defense had a good game against the Bucs, except their offense couldn't do anything. I think that the NFC is just going to be more competitive. The Niners should be back. The Rams, even without Cam Akers, are going to be around. The Washington football team even is starting to look like a team that's like, okay, year 2, a stable quarterback, hopefully, in Fitzmagic. They're looking scary. I just think that the NFC isn't going to be as wide open, and with a really tough schedule, I don't think they're going to be able to coast as easily into like a first round bye with the schedule and just home field advantage in general. I think it's going to be a struggle for them not a struggle, but like the Vikings are going to be in it for the division again, I think. So it's not going to be as much of a coast as it was last year.
I agree. Well, I don't think they're going to win the division, but.
Well, I guess the Aaron Rodgers, whatever you want to call it, the saga, the drama, is going to be put off for a year. It's all fine for now. And they've found trading for Randall Cobb seemed to do it, and guaranteeing he's traded next year. Weird scenario. I don't think we've ever seen one of these scenarios be resolved like this.
It is weird.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Other drama going around the league. We'll keep it with the quarterbacks for now, and that's Deshaun Watson is back. He's back. If you watch on the Dynasty Pod that we released, it would be yesterday, I think, when this comes out, yesterday or 2 days ago. He's like the Voldemort of the NFL now.
Yeah,
you thought he was gone. You thought he couldn't return, and now it looks like he's practicing. Maximum suspension, I feel like, is like 6 or 8 games from an outsider's perspective. Listen, I'm not a lawyer. I have no idea what's going on in the situation. I thought that the Deshaun Watson showing up for training camp was a power move by Deshaun Watson, and a really smart one at that, because he just went out without the legal stuff being figured out completely and just showed all the teams that want to trade for him, dude, you trade for me, I could practice. And as of right now, we could play. Like
I think
I'm
it also
chilling.
was a good move. Just that, speaking about the lawsuits, him showing up to practice. I mean, he's confident. Like it's going to be resolved anyway. So I do think he did it more of showing teams that, hey man, I am here still. Like you can make the move out of me for me. Get me out of Houston.
Yeah, because I had seen reports that like these teams that are trading for Deshaun, it's like probably a next year thing, or if you do it now, you don't think he's going to play. It looks like it's green light, full steam ahead. Deshaun Watson is allowed to play, and that is huge for him trying to force a trade out. So the other thing I found funny about the Deshaun Watson scenario is some of the reports that came out today on the first day of training camp, that he was basically doing nothing. I mean,
Okay.
unsurprisingly, but here's how he was doing nothing. At one point, he was wearing number 23 and lining up as a defensive back, and when on a scout team, and when the ball was snapped, basically taking 2 steps and not covering anyone. I don't know if that's like one of those, if the headline was overblown, it's just one of those drills where like they're kind of warming up, just throwing around, and you just have a body there to throw it over, almost more of like, they're not really doing anything, or if like they were, that's just weird. Why Deshaun Watson? Like what? Just, hey, Deshaun Watson,
I
go
don't
be a
know.
dummy over there. If you're gonna be here, just go sit over there and be a body. It's just
That might be
weird.
him. That might be him just being like, hey man, like I don't want to play for this team. I don't even want to throw. Like I'm just gonna go out there and play corner for a little bit. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
weird. I've never even heard of that.
I don't know. I saw the reports. It might be a little bit of clickbait from the people report. I have no idea, but what what is going on? So I guess the other question with Deshaun Watson is, where is he going to go? It seems like all the rumors recently have been the Eagles, that they're the
Yeah,
ones that are. I mean, they
the
have the
hot
draft
one.
capital. People are assuming they're going to have 3 first-round picks in next year's draft alone, which I can only imagine. Like that's what I heard the asking price was, somewhere between 3 firsts and 3 firsts and 2 starting players. Clearly, you're not going to get that, or else he probably would have been dealt by now. But some package of like maybe 2 firsts and some pick swaps or whatever, right? A good first and some pick swaps might do it. And I mean, Eagles have the draft capital. I mean, the Giants have the draft capital. We're probably rooting for them, but we've heard nothing
Yeah,
on the rumor front with them. I think the Broncos are still a clear play, especially if Watson's able to play this year. They've been in the market for a new and like
they've been
veteran
looking for.
quarterback.
Yeah, they wanted like a top quarterback. They want a guy at that position who's a top guy. They definitely don't want to stick with another year of a Drew Lock or just kind of like pondering around with a Teddy Bridgewater.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I got out of it. Is they were saying like, listen, we like Drew Lock's talent long term. We'll just develop him. It's either we, I guess, panic or just give up on the Drew Lock and draft a quarterback, or we can take what many people thought were the number one corner of the draft. We did not. We still liked what J.C. Horn, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't hate Patrick Surtain. We thought he was a pretty decent player. I thought the Broncos had a pretty good draft just to build out their roster. If I'm them and the price gets down enough, I don't know what players you would swap in the deal, but I'm looking actively to get that done for Rodgers or Watson.
Yeah, I definitely think the Broncos would be the favorite, or like the Eagles make a noise right now, but I would probably lean more Broncos just because they've been more vocal about it on trying to get the quarterback. They were really trying to be in on Rodgers, and that's not going to work out. Now, like if Deshaun's able to play, I wonder, if they're like, hell, just send it. Because like you saw where like Elway had his good Broncos teams in the past few years. I mean, yeah, you didn't trade for Peyton Manning, but like you gotta just a stable veteran quarterback that could play. that
Yeah.
could play at MVP level.
So it's an interesting scenario. There are definitely going to be some other teams rumored around. I know the Las Vegas Raiders. I heard rumblings of them. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that Gruden for now will stick with Carr, but you really never know. I think it's a little bit late with the Washington football team. They seem to be relatively set on their quarterback room, or just not paying the price for Deshaun.
You just have to give up someone on that D line, I would assume. And
yeah, it's a weird scenario, and it's a weird time for him to be traded. It feels like there's only a handful of teams that are still willing to move their quarterback unless someone gets hurt. You know, it seems like a lot of teams are just either they got their guy or they're just like, if you have Fitzmagic, hey, we think Fitzmagic's good. We see what he's got in camp. It's not worth spending our next 4 or 3 years of first round picks and other little pick swaps and losing draft capital to pick up Deshaun. We'll just take the risk, I guess. All right, well, let's move on. So other news, kind of crazy news, first day of training camp. We're just getting wild over here. Xavien Howard has requested a trade from the Miami Dolphins. And if you look at, so the whole thing was about a contract. He wants to get paid more. He thinks currently he's the 6th highest paid corner on average value per year, average cash per year. And the primary disagreement I have learned is about the guaranteed money. And he referenced Byron Jones, the other corner that the Dolphins paid last offseason, that his guaranteed money is almost double Xavien Howard's, and that's what Xavien Howard was after, and the Dolphins apparently did not want to do that. So now he looks to be disgruntled. Do you think he's getting traded?
I don't know, because corners are always kind of weird when it comes to this, you know? Like, it's really hard to tell. Also, like, Xavien Howard is like, I've never really seen him in the news and how he acts. Like Jalen Ramsey, when he wanted out, like you knew Jalen Ramsey was going to get traded. Like you just knew it. It's just the way he is. Xavien Howard, I mean, if I had to lean on something, I would say yes, he would get traded. But then again, I think the Dolphins would do a good job to try to make it work somehow. And I don't know. That's a weird situation too, because that kind of came out of nowhere. Just Xavien Howard wants out, but I get it. Like if the guy standing next to you, Byron Jones, and I think Xavien Howard's better him, is getting paid more. Like, dude, I'd be asking for a little more money too.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to disagree with a player trying to maximize their value if they want to, especially like you said, if they are one of the league's top corners and there's another team that's willing to pay them. Like, dude, you got to pay to keep your guys. It's not like the Dolphins don't have cap space or couldn't have transitioned his salary into signing bonus. It's not like those were impossible to do. They are in a position to be able to do it. So I have no idea if he's going to get traded or not. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm going to try and do everything I can to not trade him. I think that he's just that good of a player, even though I think he's 28 now. Like, it's crazy. I feel like he got drafted yesterday. I think he's phenomenal. And that defense kind of runs on putting pressure on your corners. You're just going to run cover 0, cover 1, try and pressure the quarterback, and play one-on-one with no safety help over the top. You have to be an athlete. You have to be talented, especially against some of these teams with elite level receivers. Once you start getting in the playoffs, like, dude, these guys are heavily sought after. So if he gets traded, let's just assume he gets traded. He's 2nd highest graded PFF corner last year, by the way. I think that there's two teams, 100%, that would be in the market for him. And I think the first one is relatively obvious. It's the Cardinals. Because we all know they lost Patrick Peterson. They lost the other corner, too. His name always jogs my memory. That they're not spending any money on corners, really, the Cardinals. They're a team that's looking to win games now. Vance Joseph is another dude that defensively at least last year, put pressure on his corners. Those guys were like Patrick Peterson was asked to go one-on-one with receivers in that division consistently, right? It makes a lot of sense to try and pick up Xavien Howard. You still have Kyler on the rookie deal. Just bite the bullet and really go in to win it this year and be a force in your division.
I mean, I think that would be a home run for him. Take a chance, whatever. That is one position, when they were sitting there, I think they were at 16, that, we thought they would probably lean corner. They still got Zayvon Collins, who's great. But, they really haven't been able to fill that hole, and we know it's a big need for him. If a guy like Xavien Howard's statue comes out and wants to move, I think they should be one of the first ones calling.
Yeah, the other team I thought that would make a lot of sense from a pure holy crap, this would be insane perspective and a little bit of realisticness there as well, is the Chargers. Think about the Chargers D-backs if they pick up Xavien Howard. Derwin James, Xavien Howard, and Asante Samuel Jr.
Yeah,
that to me is insane. On top of the fact that you still have Joey Bosa as a top pass rusher in the league.
Mm-hmm. That would be nice for the Chargers.
Dude, especially as a defensive, their coach was just the defensive coordinator for the Rams, one of the most talented defenses in the league. You saw how far that can carry you. You surround Justin Herbert with that defense, and not only that, you allow Asante Samuel Jr. to really, at least from my perspective, play in that role that he's going to excel at. Let him be the number 2 guy, play a lot of zone, and just say, dude, just go find the football. Get us the football. Mm-hmm. We'll have Xavien Howard go cover the other team's number 1, just shadow him all over the field. Asante Samuel Jr., you're the number 2 guy. Just give us the football. You do that 8 or 10 times, you lead the league in picks. Like, all of a sudden, your defense is insane. You have Joey Bosa to go get the quarterback. Derwin James is another dude. Like, dude, Derwin James could be a corner. Like, he literally could be a corner.
Oh, he can do it all. So, yeah. I mean,
that would make the defense insanely scary, and to me would separate the Chargers as like a fringe playoff team into like a man, that team would be scary. That's a team I don't want to face.
If they made that move, I would probably have to change some. I took the under. I would have to change that.
I'd have to change it over under as well.
I mean, I would have to put them in my playoff prediction too, because the offense will be there, whether or not if Herbert, declines a little bit or not. I still think they'll put up decent enough numbers. But if they were able to get Xavien Howard with Staley as the coach, I mean, it fits though. Like, Staley was there when Jalen Ramsey was traded to the Rams. I don't know. That'd be an interesting mix. I still think I don't know. I still don't think he's going to get traded from the Dolphins though.
I don't think so either. I think they're going to find some way to mend the situation.
They'll either pay him, be like, yeah, here's your money. Because in the Dolphins, what are you doing? Yeah,
but the thing is, Steed, is that this is an organization that clearly values draft picks and building for the future and setting themselves up for tomorrow just as much.
Building.
I mean, yeah, but I said the same thing when they traded out of pick 3 when they could have had Kyle Pitts. Like, you could have guaranteed had Kyle Pitts, who I think was just easily the best non-quarterback player in the draft.
No, they wanted
fuck it. You could have just said, we'll have 2 quarterbacks, maybe 2 quarterback system. I don't because Xavien Howard he's 28. Like, that Dolphins front office, they're spending a ton of money on corners. I would not be surprised if they got a haul in draft picks, like a first plus, kind of like we saw with the Jamal Adams deal. If they just said, dude, we're going to ship you off. We have Igbenogany that we just drafted in the first round. We have Byron Jones. We're going to get more draft capital. We're more comfortable just saying, hey, we're going to ship you off instead of giving you more guaranteed money, whether it's deserved or not.
It's a tough league.
You're telling me you're not going to be shocked if the Dolphins do that?
Well, no, just because based off their recent trend, it's just like if I'm a fan of the Dolphins, at some point you gotta like just say put the chips in and go. You got the rookie quarterback on that nice contract, if he's your guy or not, like just run with it. Run with the team you have. You saw last year you were a playoff caliber team. And, if your offense could put up better numbers, yeah, you probably could have made a little bit of a run in the playoffs.
I don't know. It's a weird situation. Similar, Chandler Jones is requesting a trade out of Arizona. I saw people were saying that you could do a 1-to-1 swap with Xavien Howard and Chandler Jones. I think Chandler Jones is another just pure contract disagreement where he's like 32, but since like 2010 he leads the NFL in sacks. Extremely productive
Yeah,
player, extremely underrated player as well. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him if he gets dealt from
I
Arizona.
doubt that. I doubt that.
I don't know. I'm a little shocked with some of these teams that have quarterbacks on rookie deals, not just probably because of the COVID salary caps. I haven't looked at the exact cap position,
Mm-hmm.
but I would figure that some of these fringe playoff teams would be looking to really like make it happen and have the roster this year for
Well, if
if you
these
get
type
hot
of
and
players,
put yourself in there,
yeah.
anything can happen.
Well, yeah, and especially if these type of players are hitting the market, the trade talks. I mean, if I believe in my team, I'm fucking calling them and trying to get them.
I
I
mean, if the
I just
Chiefs have any cap space, they could really use someone like Chandler Jones as a consistent pass rusher. That was the real weakness. The only real weakness of that football team until the offensive line got decimated down the stretch was that their pass rush
yeah.
just sucked. If you had Chandler Jones for like a 1 or 2 year rental,
I mean that fixes that.
and I also don't
I,
think that the Mahomes major cap hits really come into effect early on in his contract. I think they have it structured so that it's
I think it's like
relatively
a couple
favorable
years from
early
now.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
To like kind of, and I mean, it's smart for him. I would do the same thing where it's like, dude, while we're hot, like give me the cash to give the team the cash to really go in. I mean, you saw what they did this offseason. Like, you might not do that if you get your contract fully guaranteed and counting against the cap early on.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about teams, like you always got to think about like fits with guys going to teams, like what they need, but also like I could just see like
You can never have
aggressive
enough pass rushers, dude.
yeah, but like I could just see aggressive front offices, and like I'm thinking about like the Browns or like a Rams kind of front
Yeah,
office
the
just to be
Browns were
really
a team that
aggressive.
I was thinking about just now that you were saying we're going to get into our top GM coaching pairs. So hint, hint on that one. But like you said, just if there's an aggressive front office that says, dude, like we're just going to bolster a defense for a good price. I'm not sure you'd have to give up a ton in draft capital. It really depends on the market. But you're right. Like, hit me up.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. I mean, just imagine Chandler Jones and Miles Garrett with Davion Clowney,
oh yeah,
or
that would
like
be
is
insane.
Xavien Howard in that new revamped secondary with Denzel Ward, Greedy Meat Will, and the guy they just drafted, I like out of what's his name out of
Oh,
Northwestern.
Northwestern. Greg Newsome.
Yeah, Greg Newsome. I just stacked. I mean, that'd be great though.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see. So now that we're on the topic of aggressive GMs and good GMs, we're going to rank our top 10 head coach general manager pairs. Now, I don't know for your list, I excluded the single coach GM scenario.
So
So
Belichick.
Bill Belichick basically. It's like it has to be a coach and GM pair. It can't be a coach that is also the GM.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you had Belichick on there, or if you could just if you had an honorable mention that you can just throw in there.
I guess it'd be Belichick. No, I did not have Belichick on there
All right,
either. I
so
think.
my number one head coach GM pair is Brett Veach and Andy Reid. I think that one they're probably top
That
three
one,
for everyone.
easily. I mean, they were my number one too, just because like they go out there and make moves, and they're just winning football games. Like, and they have been before Mahomes, but now like they are Super Bowl bound every single year, and there's not many teams like if there's any team at all can say that coming into every season.
Well, yeah, I just think the moves picking up Orlando Brown, I thought was a phenomenal move for this football team. To me, Orlando Brown, I truly believe I'd probably say he's a top 5 tackle in the league. That might be a little hasty, but from a value perspective, like this guy is insane, and I think he's really going to flourish at the left tackle spot. He's just a big ass dude. Um, yeah, like the moves that they make, the plan that they've had, the execution of the Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes transition obviously can't be understated. And so much so that it seems like half of the league is trying to copy their mold of ensuring that you have a veteran bridge quarterback into your starter that you drafted in the first round but sat for a year. Like the fact that yeah, it was done before them, but they really like it seems like everyone's doing it now unless your
Mm-hmm.
team really sucks. So yeah, I think that they're an easy top 3, number 1 for me. Let's go with your number 2. I'm curious to see who you have as number 2.
I do. I want to do it so bad. I'm gonna say my number two is Brandon Bean, the GM from the Bills, and Sean McDermott. I think that they've been a really good mix. They drafting Josh Allen. It's been a home run so far. The Stephon Diggs trade, a great trade. You saw how uh, great he was last year, and building up the defense. I'd like to see him, like maybe get a little running game going, or get a running back, but overall, the Bills, since Sean McDermott has entered in and Brandon Bean's been there, it's been a great mix. They're back winning games, and they're still like, they are a Super Bowl tier team as well.
Yeah, I also have them in my top 5. My number 2, this might be a homer pick. It's Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert. I just really the thing is though is that the fact that under Mike Tomlin, the Steelers haven't had a losing season is just a
I mean, yeah,
ridiculous level of consistency. Like I truly do believe that you can throw this tandem on about any football team in the league, and they'll find a way to put the organization in a better spot a couple years down the line. Um, they have a very consistent and calculated process. Kevin Colbert even like he's adjusted a little bit to the more aggressive modern GMs of the league, which I think was nice. And you saw with the addition of Minka and trading
I
up
was
for
about to
Devin
say that.
Bush, like those nice moves that were considered risky from an organization that usually didn't take a lot of risks in the draft and in free agency. I mean, it was cool to see, and the execution was great. So that tandem to me is easily in the top 3, especially since we're excluding Belichick.
Yeah, well, Kevin Colbert and Tomlin are my three. I just think they're a good little mix, and Colbert's. I think one of his best moves, when you talked about it, was that Minka trade because it just transformed that defense.
It's just crazy. We were 0-3 at the time, and everyone's saying, "Oh, that's a top quarterback in the league," and it was just looking back, that was just a phenomenal deal for Pittsburgh at a weird time. So my number 3 is Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton.
Mm, okay.
Yeah, like listen. It's not necessarily perfect with the Saints. They whiff on some draft picks here and there, but this is another group that I am just confident that they are going to consistently put together competitive football teams. Simple as that. Like you have your ups and downs as a Saints fan. It's been a lot of ups, especially under Drew Brees, but dude, you can't understate some of the draft picks that they've had and some of the draft classes that they've had, adding a plethora of talent recently. I really like this tandem. Like, and to me, I think that I feel like I said every week, like Sean Payton is just a top coach in the league. He's incredibly creative and he's an innovative guy. I think this pair may not be in everyone's top three, but they're definitely in my three spot.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can surprise you here with my four. I got John Robinson and Vrabel from the Titans.
I don't have him that high. It's not surprising because I like them a lot.
I mean, think about like the moves that Robinson has made. He literally found just a, diamond in the rough in Tannehill and just been great for him. On top of Vrabel's just, elite, game strategy and being a great coach. But they made great moves. You drafted AJ Brown. I mean, maybe not their first round picks like the last or like 2 years ago, whatever it was. But on top of that, like AJ Brown, I think he's a huge home run. Derrick Henry and the Titans have gone from kind of a team where like back when Mariota was there, it was kind of like 7-9, 9-7. Like maybe you could see it like playoff team to where like they're easily like they are one of the two of the favorites in the division now, and if not the favorite. So I think they are a good little mix, and they do everything right.
Well, I like the point you brought up because I was going to say with this group, I have them later in my list that name a team that after they draft a quarterback bust, number 2 in the draft, and has whiffs after that in draft classes, like to the level that they have. When was a team like that good after those moves? Like the fact that the Titans are a perennial playoff team now and a team that's now looked at as one of the strongest in the division is pretty crazy. Like I'm not going to praise them for having a bad draft class a year or two ago and here and there, right? Especially with the first round picks a bit inconsistent. They've definitely made up with it with some of their second round picks and other picks and drafts and their other moves, but it really is crazy to see because from an outsider's perspective, the Titans should be bad. Like it's just feel with the defense they had last year.
Oh yeah, I mean
the whiff on Marcus Mariota, the whiff on Isaiah. Not Isaiah Wynn, that kid from Georgia last year. It's just like those are moves that bad football teams make, yet they've made such crazy moves, especially the Tannehill one, that it's just completely outweighed that.
Yeah, it really they might just be an enigma, honestly. Like
it's crazy.
Like that might be like their strategy.
Every other team that whiffed on a quarterback has either taken a new one and they started over with like a new regime, or I mean the only really good one it feels like has been the Bears. Unless you managed to weasel Tom Brady like the Bucs did. But even Jameis Winston was I don't know. It's just
I don't know. I just give credit, to the Titans and Robinson and Vrabel because obviously when Tannehill was on the Dolphins, I always thought he was good. Like I thought he was good. I didn't watch many Dolphins games when he was playing, but I would just read the stat line and I'm like, damn, they lost another game, but hey, Tannehill went 22 for 31 with 280 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty damn good. Like he just needs some help, and I think they kind of saw the same thing. Like let's just get him around our team. And we'll be balling with Arthur Smith at OC.
I think the problem at the time with Tannehill was he did have good plays and good stats, and he was a high draft pick. He was like number 8 overall. He had the talent. He just had like his lowlights were really ugly. And I think that turned off a lot of teams when he eventually became a free agent. On top of the fact that you're a free agent quarterback, like obviously you'll have a market for a backup job, but it's just a weird scenario to be a quarterback that kind of flopped after your rookie contract.
Yeah. I mean, it does also help when you go to a team where you can hand off the ball 30 times a game.
But yeah, I like that group. So we're on number 4. My number 4 group is Barrington Bean, Sean McDermott, the Bills crew. I thought I was going to have them top 3, but I didn't. So, okay, we already talked about them. My number 5 group, though, and 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all like insanely close.
Okay.
I have Chris Ballard and Frank Reich here. For better
Okay.
or
They
worse,
didn't make my top 5, but I have them somewhere. I have them in those 30 slots.
here's the thing. Like, I really respect this organization because they have a lot more patience than I would have. Chris Ballard and Frank Reich, they have gone with the philosophy they're building in-house, and they're not going to go out and overpay anyone unless like they're on their team and they deserve the contract. It's been said like every year. It's always the Colts should make splashes in free agency. Oh, the Colts should trade for this. The Colts. If you look at every single move the Colts have made has been very like financially sound, smart move. Even the Carson Wentz trade. It's like
that and
you
the
look at a
DeForest
value
Buckner
perspective.
trade.
A year later, like it's crazy. Yeah, the DeForest Buckner trade, right? Like really good, smart, sound value deals that have a ton of upside with only a little bit of downside.
Also, I mean, they got Darius Leonard in the second round.
It's their draft selections have been crazy. I mean, Quentin Nelson was a home run. Darius Leonard was a home run. They ended up picking up. They picked up that pass rusher in the draft this year, right? Not Owe, the kid from
Kwity Paye.
Yeah, Kwity Paye, who had a lot of people thought was going like top 15. He just slid to him. Look, I don't know. I think this is just sometimes you can overthink it, making a list like this. They're just consistent. They're just good. They're not gonna run this team into the ground anytime soon. They have been building and building and building, and eventually it should be a powerhouse.
Yeah, I mean that defense is stacked. At 5 for me, I mean you talked about it before and hit on it. Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton. I think that's a good duo. I mean they built that team whenever Drew Brees was kind of on his last leg to win that Super Bowl. Never accomplished it. They were probably a PI away, a PI call away from being in the Super Bowl and possibly winning against the Patriots that year. But I thought they did a great job structuring that team. They're kind of, if there's a team I'm willing to bet that can get past all this cap room they are in and get right back on track in a couple years, it's the Saints.
Yep, I agree. All right, who you got 6?
Okay, well, I'm just going to double down on one you just said. I got Ballard and Wright.
All right, so yeah, we just talked about them. I'll go with my number 6. This is easily one of my favorite GMs in the league, actually. I mean, I like the tandem as well, mainly because all the guys I like every year he drafts. And that's Rick Spielman, the Vikings general manager. For some reason, me and Rick Spielman must have a very similar scouting process or something, or whatever it is. He drafts all the guys I like every year. Every single year I look throughout the Vikings draft picks, at least the past 2 years, I've been like, oh yeah, I like that guy. Oh, holy crap, their entire draft class is dudes that I circled and I wanted to know where they ended up. So like this year, Kellen Mond obviously is one of them. If you listen to the podcast, he's a dude that I really liked. They drafted Chaz Surratt, linebacker out of North Carolina, who me and you both really liked. They had a couple of other later
the third round.
They had a couple other later picks. Last year they drafted the kid from South Carolina, the pass
DJ
rusher.
Wanham.
Yeah, DJ Wanham, who we both thought like, dude, come round 5 as a rotational pass rusher, that could be a dude that brings some value to your football team. Obviously, he's not a 3-down outside back or defensive end pass rushing type because he's just not big enough. But I mean, you saw last year he was able to get 3 sacks and a bunch of pressures as a rotational pass rusher. Those guys can really add a lot of value to your football team in like the 5th round. I like their draft strategy of trading back and acquiring a lot of picks in sections of the draft that they think are going to be very strong. It just seems like it's a very calculated calculated duo. They've had a lot of draft success. And I think that they're primed for a way better season than last year.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely be on the come up. I got them a little later on in mine, but at 7, I got. This is tough because I know it's a duo, and it's tough for me to put Bruce Arenas on here. But I think Jason Lynch just like kind of carries this because he did build that Super Bowl roster.
Yeah.
You look at what he did with the secondary. You look what he did with the D line. He drafted Tristan Wirfs. He drafted Mike Evans, Goblin. Like that Super Bowl team, that depth chart was all due to him. And I think he deserves a spot in the top 10 and Bruce Arians because he did coach him
Bruce
last year.
Arians, dude. Come on.
Arians. Dude, I always screw up his last name. I can never say it. But, I think he deserves a spot in the top 10, so I'm putting him at 7.
I actually don't have him. He was one of those ones that's like definitely close, but I feel like it's just hard. You won the Brady sweepstakes. I mean, yeah, you're right. You built the roster. They have a phenomenal roster, and he'd probably be right after in my top 10 list. So my number 7 is Lynch and Shanny, the 49er crew. I just like them. I like them a lot. I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the trade for Lance, but I see why you did it, and the fact that you almost had to in the modern game. If you like that guy, go ahead. And so I respect it. I wouldn't have done it personally, but I respect it, and you can see the clear upside. But this is just a tandem I think is great. I think that they are the epitome of like the modern NFL guys. They're innovative. They seem to be like ahead of the curve. I think that the way that they build their football teams up front first and then into the skill players, the specific players that they take, every single move I see the 49ers make, for the most part, it has always been a move that's like, yeah, I like that. Oh, yeah, I like that one too. Okay, I like that one. And it's just fantastic coaching from Shanahan as well.
Yeah, they're a good group too. They're in my top 10, but at 8 I got Spillman and Zimmer. And you already talked about them, but I think like you talk about a team that's building onto something that has invested, not heavy in the first round draft capital, but these mid-tier rounds and trying to find talent and make these, second string and capable starters. I think they're going to be very deep. And I know their defense was young last year, but with these young guys, I don't expect Zimmer to have a
You
bad
also added
defense like that
Patrick
again.
Peterson, which is a huge add for a
Needed
huge
a
position
corner.
of need since Xavier Rhodes.
Yeah, because they got the kid from Mississippi State that was a rookie last year. Was his name Drake Patrick? I think it is.
No, didn't they get the kid from TCU?
I thought they had the guy from Mississippi State.
I'll look up there. It was the 2020 draft, you're saying?
Yeah. He was their number one. Well, it had to be their number one corner last year because, they didn't have any corners. But, you definitely saw, like, him struggle early. But I think, like,
Jeff
later in the season.
Gladney.
Jeff Gladney? Okay, but, like.
And Dantzler. They picked up them both.
Oh, Dantzler. That's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, they picked up
those
both
are two guys that I think you'll see a lot of progression this year. Like, yeah, you saw the first year struggle at them, but when the Vikings got, like, hot, they started playing well.
Yeah. No, I like what they've been doing. I think that it's one of those strategies, like you said, you just acquire enough talent at every position, and all of a sudden you are going to have a great roster. We're going to get a little bit more into the Vikings in a second here. My number 9 is John Robinson and Vrabel. My number 10, I skipped my number 8 somehow. My number 8 was John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta, the Ravens crew. And I know their GM just took over, but I think Harbaugh kind of carries it. This is more of like the Ravens organization in general. Honestly, if DeCosta was there for longer, they'd probably be higher up. Consistent organization, just consistent. If we were talking organizations, then this is easily a top 5 team. Just because he hasn't been there a long time, I'm not going to give him the respect that I have some of these other dudes that have either made incredible moves or have just been around for a while. Like you can make the argument. I mean, he's been gift wrapped an insane football team.
Yeah.
Still, though, I think he's a good guy for the job, and I think if I were to rate pairs, he'd still they're still in the top 10.
Yeah, he missed my list just because, he hasn't been there. But at 9, I have Lynch and Shanny. So at 10, I had to do it, dude. I have to talk about them. But I got old Andrew Berry and Stefanski.
I have him at 10 too.
Oh, let's go. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I like this. I like this tandem. I
think
they could be
group.
higher. I think they could be higher. Dude, you are the group. You are the guys that finally resurrected the Browns from misery. That deserves your top 10 in and of itself. Like,
well, that especially. But you look at what Barry's done this offseason. They've been aggressive. They made. I loved every single of their move. I thought their draft class was very good. Stefanski just once Baker started understanding it, they kind of took off in that whole offense, and I think they're just kind of building onto that, especially in the future. And maybe the one reason I don't have them higher is because you look at what a good meat of that team is what Dorsey kind of did a couple years prior. So like I can't give them full credit, but it's their time now, and this offseason I thought, jump shot them into the top 10 for me.
Yeah, I agree with the Dorsey comment to a certain extent. I think that Andrew Berry's just done nothing but good since then, though. And the thing I'll say about Stefanski is that name a player on that football team that wasn't playing better than last year. 2 years ago, I guess. There wasn't a single player on that football team that regressed. Maybe you can handpick like one of their D backs early in the year. Or I guess late in the year too. Their D backs did kind of stuff. All right, excluding the defensive backs, name a player.
Well, they had a lot hurt.
Yeah, they did have a lot hurt.
Or Delpit.
But I don't know. It feels like at least that every single player on the Browns team improved, all the way down to who everyone thought was a bust, David Njoku. All of a sudden, you're seeing the David Njoku that was supposed to be good and was good like 2 years ago. It's like, okay, he's back. Baker, he's playing well. Myles Garrett, defensive player of the year candidate. Like everyone was playing how they were supposed to be playing, it seemed like, especially at the end of the season. Phenomenal job by Stefanski and Andrew Berry. Whether or not they built it doesn't really matter. They have been steering the ship themselves in the right direction and have taken that jump that Dorsey was unable to.
I think their big thing that I would tell a lot of people is that, they've made great moves and they've done a great job coaching, but those two also established a culture in Cleveland. And if you want to be a winning, there's a culture in Pittsburgh, there's a culture in Baltimore, every day you go to the field, to the park, what you're supposed to do. And just that feeling of like winning and just having your certain job, I think they've established that into Cleveland, and that's why I'm more on them as being a perennial powerhouse for years.
All right, we got any honorable mentions? I have a couple. So obviously the Bucs are one, but you mentioned them already. The other I want to talk about is the Dolphins. Greer and what's their head coach's name again?
Brian Flores.
Flores, yeah, Greer and Flores. If it weren't for that one trade, I would have this team, this duo as a top 10 guy, duo. I do not like the move from going from 3 to 12 and then back up to 6 to take Waddle. I hated that, honestly.
Yeah, that cringed me a little bit.
I thought they got up until then, really the only bad move, and it really wasn't that bad of a move, was trading Minka, but you still got a top 20 pick in return. It wasn't really, obviously in hindsight, you probably wouldn't have wanted to do it, but that was fine from a value perspective. And I mean, their draft class was all right. It gave you some pretty serviceable players. They kind of turned a team that had just a bunch of nobodies on offensive line into a group that if you look statistically, was like average, maybe a little
Mm-hmm.
bit above average, which is a feat in and of itself. The fact that, I mean, they did invest in it, but you've seen teams go years and years and years and drafts after drafts investing into offensive lines and not being able to get anything. They were able to take guys like Eric Flowers, shove him at guard, which is almost like an interior tackle, and all of a sudden turn a bunch of, one draft class, a couple of free agent signs, you have an average to above average offensive line. Pretty good stuff from them. I think they're definitely an honorable mention.
Yeah, I would put an honorable mention too, just based off kind of last year, teetering what we think they're going to be this year is Joe Judge and
Dave Gettleman.
Gettleman. Yeah, I know Gettleman gets a lot of crap.
A lot of his moves have worked. I've liked Gettleman's moves.
Gettleman, like when his back is against the wall, because I've always seen the news that he's in the hot seat. Listen, he made that trade for Leonard Williams. That worked. He signed James Bradbury. Bradbury played tremendous.
The Odell trade.
The Odell, nice for him. So I think they're honorable mention because it looks like Joe Judge does have that kind of like he's building something in there. I mean, they play in the East, so first 1 to 7 wins. But
I agree completely, though. Also, like New York is just a tough market to play in, and the one bad apple in his moves has been the Daniel Jones pick thus far, and it's not even set in stone. Daniel Jones is going into his 3rd year, but as of right now, it's like you would have liked to see Daniel Jones a little bit further ahead, or have just shown
but that
you
apple
more
hasn't fallen
flashes.
from the tree just yet.
No, yeah, obviously it hasn't. I agree, though. I have been kind of defending Dave Gettleman for a while now, and there are a lot of people that don't like the moves. It's just you look at it at the track record. It's been good. It's been really good. He's had 2 bad draft picks, and so it's not even. He's got 1 bad pick, which was the corner that they took out of Georgia, DeAndre Baker.
Oh yeah, DeAndre Baker.
Taking him as number 1 corner off the board was not a great move, and a lot of people don't like the Kadarius Toney move. But aside from that, his trades have worked. He's built a good. I mean, he got crap for the Saquon Barkley pick, but you passed on Sam Darnold for Saquon, and looking at that now, you're thinking that's probably a smart decision. Obviously, you probably could have had Allen or Lamar, but at the time, if you're going off consensus, if you're taking a quarterback at that pick, you're taking Darnold, which was probably a good move to pass on him, at least as of right now. So, yeah, I agree. That's a good honorable mention. All right, but let's move on. Let's go back to our boys, the Vikings, because this is a topic I'm surprised we really haven't covered an individual segment recently, and that is what is going on with Kirk Cousins. It's a scenario that I think if you play in Dynasty Fantasy Football, it's one of those ones where it's like you think that Kirk Cousins is basically just going to play out his contract and then leave. And, especially if you had that preconceived notion, you further it by the fact that they just spent a 3rd-round pick 66 overall on Kellen Mond, almost a 2nd-round pick. It's like, okay, clearly they're not in on Kirk Cousins to the point where they're not willing to take a Kellen Mond,
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of want to just come out here and say, I don't think the Vikings have a plan for quarterback. I really don't. I looked at it today, Steed, and I came to the conclusion that the Vikings are just living in the present. Obviously,
that's a good way to put it.
Obviously, the value lined up with the pick to pick up Kellen. I mean, I like Kellen Mond. I thought he should have went in the 2nd round, so he slips out of the 2nd round. Hey, go ahead, you take him. Because Kirk Cousins is not the most consistent guy. What if Kirk Cousins goes and instead of playing just the first half of the season like shit, like he did last year, he goes the entire season and plays like crap? Okay, then we at least have something. We're not completely out of the water, in the mud. And then on the other hand, if Kellen Mond just happens to be one of the steals of the draft, well, shit, now we have 2 good quarterbacks. But also, they're living in the present in the fact that Well, what if Kirk Cousins is still just good? What if Kirk Cousins just plays good football like he has and is still just a good, that fringe top 10 kind of quarterback? That's fine. You have him under contract for the 2 years. You're chilling. I don't think they have a plan. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. I just think that they're looking at it from the perspective, hey, we got another guy. We're going to see what happens. Is a third-round pick. We had a second-round grade on him. Maybe it was an early second. Like, he just fell too far. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's fine. You're playing for upside. You have the chips. If Kirk Cousins doesn't pan out, you have a backup plan. If Kirk Cousins does pan out, then you only use the third-round pick. If Mon pans out, then you have two good ones. Like, I think it was a smart move, and I really don't think that the writing is on the wall for Kirk Cousins, nor is Kellen Mond going to be stuck.
No, I agree with you. I would say, first of all, they needed a backup quarterback, and to get someone like Kellen Mond, in the third round like that, you take them because you see the pro ability. Also, I think it's good for Kirk Cousins too because he is especially last year, he was very inconsistent. When the Vikings were just, started off 0-5, it was pick city left and right, it seemed like, but like when they got going, Kirk Cousins threw 4 touchdowns, 300 yards. And it's like, okay, why haven't you been doing that all year? So I think if you throw a rookie who wants to prove himself and wants to be talked about in this quarterback class, it's going to put some pressure on Kirk Cousins. So I think it's going to not make or break Kirk Cousins, but like kind of put that fire back to where like your job security is not safe. Like, yeah, the contract says you're our guy and you are our guy, but like we need you to play like our guy. Like we can't have you. We're competing against Aaron Rodgers, right, for the division.
Exactly. That's the problem. Is that you need the elite.
We can't have you coming out. We can't have you coming out here playing like Jared Goff. Like we need
100%.
We need you to play like a top 10. We need you like in some kind of Matt Ryan range. Like just be. You don't have to do Patrick Mahomes ungodly things because at the end of the day, you still have Dalvin Cook. You got Justin Jefferson. You got weapons around you. We just need you to play at some kind of consistent level.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like this organization is playing for upside, which is exactly what I think they needed to do with the situation and the cards that they were dealt. If you have a guy like Mond, who I'm sure that there were teams that might have had at least an early to mid-second round grade on, possibly even very late first round. I am pretty sure of that there are definitely GMs. I think the Vikings were probably one of them, considering they didn't have a desperate need to spend high draft capital on a quarterback. I think that they were in a position they needed to play for upside, and that upside could be a franchise quarterback. Dude, this is an organization, if you remember, that has really struggled to get that guy at the quarterback position. Kirk Cousins, he has been very good. He's probably been one of the better quarterbacks that the Vikings have had in recent years. It's just,
he's been the closest thing.
He's still not the guy. He's not that unquestioned quarterback for the next 3 years. And the Vikings have been looking for that for years. What if you just got that in the third round? And if not, it's just the third.
The crazy thing is I was seeing this Vikings fan the other day. He posted a video. He's like, all I know is pain. And he posts where Kirk Cousins throws that game-winning touchdown to Kyle Rudolph against the Saints. That was a push-off, by the way. And and then he's he fast forwards to the 49ers game. And he's like, dude, you're telling me right now Kirk Cousins was going in there and beating the best team in the league that year. Hands down, no shot. The thing about the Vikings, I like the Vikings, but I like them only as a playoff team. And it's because I look at a guy like Kirk Cousins, and I can tell you right now and be like, dude, he can't win me a Super Bowl. I don't. It doesn't appeal to me. I think he's a good quarterback.
Maybe if you just
get
get
him
him on
like
that stretch.
if you get him in a weird stretch like a Joe Flacco run the playoffs, but still, like we haven't. This dude just got his first Monday night win of his career last year. Like you talk about primetime Monday night football is the joke of primetime games during the regular season. I mean,
I
I
like
like Kirk
Kirk though.
Cousins. I
He's a
do.
good
I like
player.
him. But like at the end of the day, like our whole goal is to win not World Series, a Super Bowl. So like that guy, he ain't it unless you got like a 49er, like a 2019 49ers built team, like full team around him, and he's
He's
playing
like
good.
right on the edge of Super Bowl winning caliber quarterbacks. Just because he
See,
is most of the guys that you think can't do it, they can't do it because they just don't have that ability where it's like you're down in a football game, we're going to hand you the football 55 times, you need to throw us out of here.
yeah,
Kirk
see,
Cousins can do that,
uh,
which is crazy. Kirk Cousins on any given day can go out there and throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. But
yeah,
for
he
as
can.
many of those as you get 150 yards and 3 picks. And it's just, if you get him hot, I really do think he can win a Super Bowl. But that's the problem, is that he's just not at that elite level. And that's
Because
what you need in the modern game nowadays. There's just too many insanely good quarterbacks.
yeah, because like just like talking about the tier he's in, I would put him around the same tier as Matt Ryan. But at least every Sunday when I watch Matt Ryan play, it's consistent. It's at least 200 yards, a couple touchdowns, and maybe a pick. And like, yeah, Kirk Cousins can go off and do better than that, but then he can play like like an Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
Like it's just I just if he was more consistent, then I could just kind of believe more in it. But I
But
do
this
think
is
the
where I
Kellen
like the
Mond pick
move,
was good
though.
for him.
Because it's like Kirk Cousins is 100% good enough that you're not going to actively look to replace him. He's good enough. Like he is. He's probably still, in terms of how he's going to play next year, a top half of the league quarterback. At the end of the day, he's going to be a top 15 quarterback.
Yeah.
Whether it's sexy or not, and whether it's inconsistent or not, he's going to put up those numbers. It's just he's only a top 15 quarterback. And to win the league, we've seen that you probably need at least a top 10 guy or easily one of the most talented rosters in the past like 5 years.
Yeah.
So, interesting scenario there.
Unless like all their third round picks they've had in the last 2 years just turn out to be gems,
Yeah.
like they
Get a
just
couple
have
more Justin Jeffersons out there.
yeah, just have a Justin Jefferson fall in your lap again. I mean, I don't know. Kirk Cousins, he's always an interesting guy to like look at because it's just you see it. It's like the student that has potential in high school, but at the end of the day just doesn't care. It's like, dang, dude, like you
See, I
could
feel
be
like
like
he's the opposite. I feel like he's the type of guy where he's just not the smartest dude in the room, but he works so hard that he's able to compete with the smart guys in the classroom. It's just
yeah, I guess if you
the
want to talk about
natural,
just
like
on the
those
talent
kids that
side.
just like there's the other kids in the classroom that they just pick it up easier. They don't have to work as hard and they're able to get
The
better
Patrick
results.
Mahomes.
Yeah, exactly. But Kirk Cousins is the type of dude that he works so hard and like has improved his game to the point where it's like he's able to compete with these guys. He's just not at that elite level.
I
But
wonder if he threw Kirk Cousins on the Patriots, what would happen?
I think that'd
Like
be
if he
good. I
didn't.
think him and McDaniels would work. Like I think Kirk Cousins is super slept on. I like
Yeah,
him.
because like
It's just
if
you
you
need
were
a
just talking about hardworking people, like I always think about Brady. Just talent wise, we can obviously like when I say talent wise, like I just think of like a Mahomes or Rodgers. Like you just see the talents like not on par with them, but like the work ethics there. I wonder if Kirk Cousins just had that like path. I don't know. It's still though. He's a good enough quarterback to where you're a fringe playoff team and you can go on a run.
The thing is, too, though, is that I think even if the Vikings don't extend him, that he has life post-Vikings. I really do think that if Kirk Cousins wants to, he can play for another 5 seasons in this league. Like,
I
I
think
think
so
that he's
too.
being only credited for like 2 or 3 more.
Unless, like, every team just has that
There's going to be
guy
a
at
team,
quarterback.
dude. There's going to be a team. If Kirk Cousins is playing at the same level that he played last year, 3 years from now, and he's in free agency, there's going to be a team that wants him as the starter. 100%.
I mean, the Broncos would love him right now.
Yeah, the Broncos would be a team that's like, hell yeah. I mean, the Texans would probably take anyone. There are probably some high schoolers
I was about to say, I think
take.
I think the Texans might take me.
You know that dude? You know that dude that with the long hair? That I see PFF tweeting about him all the time. The new Patrick Mahomes guy. He just throws
the high
sidearm.
school.
Yeah.
I see that guy,
Do you think the Texans would take that dude if they could?
to play right if Deshaun doesn't play for him?
Well, yeah, assuming that Deshaun is out, like.
Well, you got to put people in the seats, so might as well. Because I'm telling you, if I was a Texans fan, I'm not going to a game just to see us get steamrolled by 40.
Yeah, but if they had that kid, they could see him Patrick Mahomes a couple stuff with his sidearm cannon. All right, but that's going to do it from us for this episode 59 in the books. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Hit us with a like, hit us with a follow, hit us with a subscribe. Please, really helps us out. We'd really appreciate it, but thank you so much for listening. Peace out.